This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills, powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Erik Turner. And Erik, Bills lost 2 weeks ago. I was going to say last week, but technically last week is the Detroit game. And it was a fun game, but it was disappointing. Then they had to go to Detroit, face arguably the NFL's best team. It was a marquee matchup. The CBS crew was live in Detroit for it. And the Buffalo Bills did not disappoint as they went into Detroit. And, some things happened later in the game in the fourth quarter, which we'll talk about, but put on a very strong showing against a good Lions team, even though they are banged up. But the Bills are to a degree. They come out strong. They get back into the winner's circle, beating the Lions in Detroit. We are here to break down both sides of the ball, several key components. This was a very, very, very fun schematic game for us and for fans in general, but especially for us with how nerdy we are in scheme and structure and X's and O's. This is a very, very fun episode we have planned for you folks. Erik, I know you're excited for it, but how you doing? How you feeling? How's it going?
I mean, I can't complain given that game on Sunday afternoon. As you said, very entertaining from a fan perspective, very entertaining and nerdy when it comes to the film and what we're going to be breaking down tonight. Again, both sides of the ball, offense and defense. We have some cool stuff when it comes to schematically, what the Bills did on offense and some of the stuff that we saw from Joe Brady and of course, and then, Ben Johnson, the other offensive coordinator on the Lions side of the field. It was exciting from many different angles. And we're going to break down both sides of the ball tonight in the film room. So as I always say, grab your beverages, proper beverages and popcorn, really, because some of this film is going to be so much fun to break down. You're going to hear us nerd out pretty much for an hour and a half. So I hope you guys are prepared to dive into some of this film.
Man, and you said it too, even like kind of, shouting out the Lions. There were, some fun elements that the Lions always bring. Jared Goff pulled off a couple ridiculous throws, like the one to Amon-Ra for the huge touchdown that almost could have been like intercepted by Bernard or deflected by Milano.
Right?
Yes.
Just inches.
Even the dot to Jameson Williams that he dropped that wouldn't have counted anyway because of the hold on AJ Epinesa was a beautiful throw with Epinesa like in his face. This was good on good on both sides of the ball. And, from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, it felt like a big game. The crowd was super into it, as they normally are in Detroit. But yeah, just what a really fun game to watch and be able to break down and study the film with. It's one that I think has a lot of fans salivating. It had us salivating. Erik will start on the offensive side of the football. And when it came to this performance, Joe Brady, Josh Allen, the run game, there's a lot to like in this. Obviously, they put up a ton of points once again for the third week in a row, basically. Where's your head at, when you're thinking about the offensive performance coming out of Detroit and coming out of this victory?
I mean, as we said at the top, it was very creative. It was very multiple when we're talking personnel groupings, when we're talking concepts, where we're talking passing or running. There were so many different personnel groupings by the Bills. I mean, they busted out 0-2 personnel, 0-3 personnel. So basically no running backs, 2 tight ends, no running backs, 3 tight ends, 11 personnel, 48.5% of the time. 12 personnel, of course, we saw a bunch at 14.7% of the time. We even saw 21 and 22 personnel, which is something they haven't used a lot of this year. Throwing Gilliam in there with another running back, and obviously all 3 running backs when we're talking James Cook, Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, all 3 had big hands in this game. 285 of the 559 yards came from those 3 running backs when we're talking yards from scrimmage. So they were a huge chunk of this game plan going in. And obviously Joe Brady wanted to get those running backs matched up versus the Lions defense. And Joe Brady did that by personnel groupings, by, personnel usage and moving guys, Cook, Davis, Johnson around, throwing some vertical shots down the field, and really just getting the Lions in their base defense so that they could attack them with the run and pass. And the Bills, they're obviously able to put up a lot of yards, a lot of points and production, thanks to the game plan, thanks to the execution inside and outside of structure.
Yeah, good call then, especially, kind of starting there for me, the in and out of structure aspect. We talked about it as soon as Brady took over, and said it so much on the show. His ability to kind of weaponize running backs in the pass game. But we saw it, by design in this one. We saw it off script between Allen and Ty Johnson multiple times, Allen and James Cook. Like the running backs really factored in. And, getting Detroit into base personnel made sense, right? They're banged up at that spot. Anzalone's out. You've got Campbell, but then you're kind of, okay, is it like Ezekiel Turner? Is it Quan Alexander? Like, who are we putting in and how? And they just attacked early. I mean, right on that first drive, sending, Ty on the rail, through the A gap, like just putting those linebackers in conflict, taking advantage or trying to exploit man coverage. No, Detroit's not fooling anybody. They're going to run a ton of man. They're going to run a ton of cover one. But the multiplicity of the offense in general, but especially the run game, the diversity, the concepts they got in. And just, I would say beautiful. You pulled up that was literally my notes. I'll say the big one for me is that, 21 personnel percent there, 13.2%. They had 9 plays out of 21 personnel, which is very high for them, like you said. But just look at, and it may not seem a lot to a lot of people, because it's 1.5 here, 1.5 here. But just look at all the drops in the bucket they have from a personnel standpoint. That is a diverse game plan. And more importantly, they had that diversity, but it was woven well within the overall game plan. It was sequenced well. It was
their base concepts, right? So they weren't like just throwing all new things out there. There were some different wrinkles, but the multiplicity of the personnel usage, as you see here on the screen, but also still falling under the umbrella of stuff that they've run all year, but they were just presented differently with the different personnel, and some of the formations were just ridiculous from Joe Brady.
Yes, who was lining up where, who aligns, initially on the snap and then gets shifted somewhere else or motioned somewhere else. There was a lot of bells and whistles and mind tricks being played, but not for the sake of bells and whistles and mind tricks. There was a plan, there was cohesion, there was, sequencing and layering, and it was a story that was being told. This arguably, actually, I don't even want to say arguably, this was my favorite Joe Brady, performance, whether it was, we're talking about the game plan going in or the play calling and design and sequencing within it, just what they got to, how much they pulled out of the bag, but how well it all flowed together. Like, it's just, it made me, this is going to sound super nerdy, and I know you don't like, you're not a wrestling guy, but like you'll get matches where guys are just doing moves, and it's impressive, but they're just doing moves to do moves. Like, it doesn't make sense how they're happening. And that wasn't what happened here. There was just a plan, and it was executed well.
It was sequenced really nice. Yes. Again, some plays looked the same until they weren't. And I think this is where we lead to when we're talking the run game. We'll talk about the pass stuff here in a few seconds, but the run game, the multiple concepts, the personnel, as we said, under center, gun, spread, tight, condensed formations, they ran it all. And if you're looking at some of these run concepts, and the ones that really stood out are categorized by True Media as power. But really, when you're saying power, that's, hey, usually the guards are pulling. But they also file, the dart plays where the tackles are pulling, Spencer Brown, Deion Dawkins. They file that under power as well. And we usually see that as when we're talking gap-like schemes and power schemes, we're usually seeing the tackles pull. Well, in this game, everybody pulled. The tackles were pulling on bash and dart. They had counter tray when Ray Davis is in there.
And they never do that. They ran like actual counter, like
exactly
GT counter.
Out of pistol. Like, hello. That's something they didn't show a bunch of. And then, they had their guards pull. They had McGovern pull on a weak side full block. Yeah. The multiplicity in the run game was crazy. And so I pulled up just the power runs, because again, just the guard and tackle pulls. They had 12 rushes for 116 yards. That's 9.7 yards a rush. In the way they got to it. We're going to show a few of those plays to start the film room off, but I just thought that the multiplicity in the run game had to, create issues for defense when you're talking. Yes, they were running a lot of the base concepts. They threw a few new wrinkles in there and formations, but just imagine the Lions coming in, what they're preparing for, and then seeing all this and trying to play catch up as the game progressed.
Yeah, you're especially this year, right? Like, mid zone to the weak side has been like their bread and butter, but then they'll go duo off of it, and then they still have the tackle postal. But really, this year it's just been like, weak side, mid zone, weak side, mid zone, and they're in this game. Once they ran like true, actual counter tray GT counter, that one I was like, like Brady is locked in.
He's in his bag immediately. He's in his bag.
And when you add that in with all like the QB read elements and the Allen plays by design, like getting to everything, like all the tackle pull stuff, dart and like long trap. And then you got like variations of counter and duo, the mid zone, the fake toss, spinner counter, like the QB action and the reads, like just everything.
Wing T elements.
Yes, that's the one.
Like,
That's a spinner. Like,
yeah,
and Detroit did that last week to Green Bay, which I just marked out for during it. Like, man, yeah, this one was just such a great performance. And it's nice to kind of start off with this first one, touchdown from Josh Allen on Bash.
Yeah, and this concept, we see it every year, but they pull it out in certain games. Most of the time in prior years, it was when they played the Dolphins and they would run this and Cook would get out wide and he would get on the perimeter and score touchdowns. Well, on this play, again, they like to bust it out against the Dolphins. A lot of teams that play man coverage. And this run scheme by the Bills against the Lions reminded me of their run game against the Cowboys last year. So, Bash, you're going to have this wide-looking run by Johnson going out this way. But this is the read right here, this end man on the line of scrimmage. And if that guy shoots upfield like he does here, Josh isn't going to give it to Johnson here. He's going to keep it like he does here. And just like they had, in prior plays on dart where, the tackle is pulling here, Deion Dawkins is leading. But the cool wrinkle on top of just running Bash here is that they have Gilliam right here as a sniffer kind of running a diagonal route to the flats. And when he does that, it pulls two defenders right there. And so Dawkins has no one to block. And Josh is able to walk in untouched for the touchdown.
I meant to put this out as a tweet, and I completely forgot until right now. When Dawkins pulls and Gilliam takes the two with him, Deion Dawkins is standing around like Will Smith at the end of the Fresh Prince in the living room, just looking around like all sad and alone and by himself.
There's no couch there anymore. There's no family. Yeah,
he's just standing on the big area rug. That's what Dawkins looks like. He looks around like, man, like everybody's gone. Yeah, this one was beautiful. Like the nice little wrinkle of Gilliam getting to the flat, and then he pulls multiple defenders with him. You're seeing some of that man coverage piece, guys going with their men, but also kind of reacting to what they're seeing in front. And I like this call. You could see just literally kind of the parting of the Red Sea on the defense and all the vacating of space. And also when we're talking Bash, all that means is back away from the scheme. So Ty Johnson is going to the left. Deion Dawkins is pulling to the right. You could see this for anything. And, we'll get into, we show a bunch of the plays with it really on Twitter and throughout the entirety of the year. If you've got guards or an offensive lineman moving one way and the back is going the other way, that's Bash. All it means is just back away within that scheme.
Yeah, and we're going to break this play down again on another play, another touchdown. But again, this is a play that the Bills have in their scheme. And they use it against teams, especially in the low red zone, that play a lot of man coverage. And you get a lot of man coverage in the low red zone, kind of like what you see here. So you see the Lions stacking the box again. The Bills run the same play here. And so what the Lions do on this play is you see that DN crash down. That read, man, crashes down. So that is a give call for the quarterback. And so now you have Cook out leveraging Campbell, who is scrape exchanging, because if the DN's crashing on the quarterback, then Campbell is exchanging with that DN. He is outside and is supposed to be that force player, that contained player. But he is obviously out leveraged with the speed and quickness of James Cook.
Yeah, and you'll see this a lot from teams when they're playing that read. You'll see the end crash, and then you'll see the scrape exchange from the linebacker over the top. It's a nice way to play it, but Cook's speed, and we've seen this time and time again in the low red zone, Cook's speed and juice just being the difference in getting to the corner, whether guys read it right off rip, or in this case, what Jack Campbell highlighted there, he just sits on his feet a little too long, just moves a little too far to the left, stays in his stance a little. It's just that little hop to the left, and he's dead because of Cook's speed and Cook's juice. And then, that little, wrinkle on top of it. If you're Detroit, you're sitting there going, okay, here comes that same look. I'm crashing. Psych. It's a handoff this time, and Cook is just wide open, untouched into the end zone. Another kind of parting of the Red Sea, similar to Allen's, and just the same concept, but just making the defense wrong no matter what. This just makes you feel helpless if you are a defense.
And another small little wrinkle here to keep in mind. Again, low red zone man coverage. You see Shakir come across the formation. He brings Robertson right into that as that force player over him. But because they're in man coverage and you see Shakir, he exits the tackle box area, and goes out wide, kind of like he's running a route, but he's just running that guy away from the point of attack. Again, this is the reason why that the Bills are so difficult to defend when you have a running quarterback who can change the numbers, but also the speed that can get on the perimeter here. It's not your traditional zone read, right? Where you're running inside zone, that quarterback's reading the end man. This is more of an inverse way of running that. And now you're getting speed on the perimeter and then power. If the quarterback keeps it, you're getting that dart, that left tackle pulling, the right tackle pulling, and Josh, being led by one of those guys, just a successful play when you're talking the run game. But the Bills also busted out just their traditional dart later in the game, 3-by-1 set. This is a 41-yard touchdown by James Cook. But once again, look at the formation. It's 3-by-1. You have the trips to the top of the screen. Look at the coverage. Coverage, we always say it, coverage can dictate run fits. And so now that they are 3-by-1, you have all those receivers being covered up to the top of the screen in the spread formation. You have Cooper to the bottom isolated. You have a safety shading there. And what they have is a light box. They have a 6-man box. And again, this is more of an RPO where if Josh doesn't like the numbers or if he likes the leverage out wide with Shakir, he can run the screen. But here he gives it with Spencer Brown pulling. Brown pulls, kicks out that inside linebacker. Cook, shows some really good vision and patience to cut it back up inside to split the safeties. Then he's off to the races for the 41-yard touchdown.
They ran this on back-to-back plays. Obviously, the one before it because this one's a touchdown. And the first one, it was a 6-yard gain to Cook. This time, obviously, the house call. I love running this against a light box, especially with Josh Allen, because that backside defensive end, the defensive end to the left here from our vantage point, he has to respect Josh Allen potentially keeping it. Not to mention, we've already seen him keep it multiple times. Yep. So there goes Allen. He hands it off and he takes off. Defensive end has to read it, honor it a little bit. And then Cook's speed is going to make it tough for that end to crash down and catch him before he gets into the line anyway.
Look at that ankle flexion too on this cut, man. It's ridiculous.
He does it so much where he's like cutting and leaning at the same time. Like you don't see a lot of sharp cuts for him. You just see these like lean into bendable, pliable movements from him to get north and south and east and west. And this develops beautifully. So you have that light box. There's 6 defenders, which is fine because you've got 5 offensive linemen, which means there's 6 gaps. So if you're the Lions, you're gapped out and everything is good. You got a body for each gap. Everything should be fine. But because that backside edge is not a factor, it essentially becomes 5-on-5. You got a hat on a hat. And look at the hat. Spencer Brown pulls, takes his man. Edwards climbs to the second level. And then Kirby Joseph, 31, the safety, he comes up to fit. And the way Cook cuts through this hole, Joseph tries to slam on the brakes a little bit and essentially just blows a tire as he comes forward because of and Cook's already setting this up. He sees the way it's developing, sees that Joseph is fitting from the outside.
He also feels Campbell, right? He senses Campbell working over the top and scraping over the top, which is why he cut it back.
Which is again what you're supposed to do, like make your lineman right. Campbell's working outside, cool. So you go back inside. He beats Campbell, beats Joseph, and then again another difference maker with the speed and the juice. Even fights through his hair being pulled like that. I got to be honest, that's always in my mind. The dudes who have long hair, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more to them, and that would make me want to shave my head. But to each their own. And he just powers through, gives a nice little stiff arm, nice little celly in the end zone. Just a beautiful, explosive run for Cook, who's had several this year on a multitude of concepts for this offense.
That's what was great about Cook's rush. 14 rushes for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is he adds a different element than maybe the other 2 backs do. And if you're able to get him on the perimeter on those bash plays, get him, up inside, but allow him to, accelerate and maximize that ability to burst and accelerate and run away from people like you saw in that play because of that light box, you're putting numbers in the favor of the offense and you're getting a guy the open space that he needs to operate. And then you can see him, he may not have 20 rushes a game, but if he's having 10 to 15 and he's busting, several of those for over 20 yards and leading to 6 points, like that is maximizing what he brings to the table. He doesn't have to be an every down back because they have a very good trio going and they used him very beautifully in this game, including this play early in the game, running back leak, very well-designed play by Joe Brady. They are in 12 personnel, which keeps the Lions in their base personnel. So 1 running back, 2 tight ends to the bottom of the screen. And this is a play they've run a bunch over the last couple of years. You're seeing that sleight of hand. You're seeing the ball disappear to the defense, right? So you have Shakir coming behind Allen, but you're also having the false pull by McGovern. Everything on this screams that the ball's going this way, right, Ant? So that's slowing down the processor and eyes of these linebackers and second and third level defenders. And then what that's doing, it's allowing, Kincaid to get down the field to run that clearing route, Cooper on the dig, And then now, I'm sorry, you're leaking out Ty Johnson on this play. Excuse me, getting ahead of myself. You're getting Ty Johnson to leak out, and you're getting him one-on-one with the linebacker on this rail or wheel route. And it's actually covered pretty well, Anthony. I think you would agree. I think it's covered pretty well, but all of that eye candy and layers to that complexity of that play allows Josh time, 3.1 seconds, to do the play action, have a nice deep drop, make this throw with very good mechanics and timing, and he's able to hit Johnson and drop it in there. Really beautiful throw and rhythm for the big play down the field.
Yeah, this is on that first drive. For, kind of work backwards when we said there. Beautiful ball from Allen. Drops it right in the bucket to Ty Johnson, but good ball tracking from Ty. He adjusts at the last minute, makes a nice hands catch. But we keep talking about Allen's mechanics. Look, the mechanics here, drops, hits the top of his drop, sets, watch him step forward. His eyes and his shoulder and his, feet, base are all pointed towards the target. Lee's biting the burger with the left hand. He's rotating through the ball with that throwing arm. Like, just look how pretty, fluid, effortless, and tight the mechanics are. We continue to highlight these things every week because he continues to be on point. And Erik, much like we talked about last week, him continuing to be on point with his mechanics this late in the year, such an awesome sign. And yeah, a lot for the defense to deal with. You've got the motion from Shakir, or the flash of color from Shakir, the flash of color from Ty Johnson, the flash of color from McGovern pulling on the false pull. There's a lot of things to process and keep an eye on. And to Quan Alexander's credit, the guy who ends up covering Ty Johnson here, I think he does a pretty good job. Like, Ty Johnson's getting a full head of steam. Quan reads it, opens up, turns and runs with him, but the throw beats him. Johnson separates a little bit at the catch point. I also love these. We see a lot of rail and wheel stuff from the Bills running backs. I really like the ones when they go through the line, whether it's through the A gap like it was here or through the B gap. I really like those. In terms of angles and how it changes things and could potentially create advantages.
Yeah, you could get lost in that traffic as you're splitting the line of scrimmage there. Just awesome work. Good question here. Mike asks, any concern that some of these Josh Superman plays are because wide receivers couldn't get open? No, I don't. I think in any offense, in any game, there are going to be plays that your quarterback has to play above the scheme, or another player, skill player, has to play above the scheme. And if, the scheme doesn't work, the play design doesn't work, if the wide receiver isn't able to create separation versus man coverage or tight coverage, then your quarterback, it's on him to make plays. The modern quarterbacks nowadays have to be able to extend plays inside or outside the pocket. Obviously, Josh can make those plays. And a lot of times, more times than not, as you'll see in a few of these plays coming up, they're Superman looking plays.
That's fair. Yeah. Spot on. And I'll let the one little thing I'd add to that, I would be more worried if the Bills didn't have like a really good run game. Because if you got guys who can't separate, okay, that's fine. Let's pivot and just run it down your face and we'll go from there, which they did at several points in this game. So yeah, I think they have enough offensive diversity and pivots baked in that I'm not too worried.
Right. All right. So moving on, speaking of Superman plays, I think this is kind of that play. This is our easy loan auto sales, in quotes, making it look easy play of the game. This, pass to James Cook outside of structure. Mike, great. Appreciate the segue here. So you have the clearing route, as I talked about earlier, by Kincaid up the seam. You have the dig by Cooper, which I think he is open if Josh is a little more patient in the pocket. But then you see him get outside the pocket, make this ridiculous throw across the body. And to Mike's point, this play was a Superman throw in an exhibition by Josh. But honestly, this play was open. I think right here, this is open to Cooper across the middle on that dig route. But Josh felt a little pressure as this guy was flattening out to him. So he extended the play. And it's very difficult to cover for 7, 8, 9 seconds. And so Josh gets out to his left and makes this ridiculous throw, running full speed to his left with Cook coming back across the field, as you'll see from the end zone angle, for the big explosive play.
It's so funny how, I avoid, until I've fully gotten through the film, I avoid social media and everybody's analysis and takes because I don't want to, have anything in my brain before I see the film. And it's just so funny how we see things so similarly. Like, I wanted to comment on this play when I tweeted it that he should have hit the dig, but I didn't want everybody to yell at me, and I didn't feel like dealing with everybody's crap. And I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna, because it's there. And again, he feels that pressure a little bit, like you said, feels that edge, maybe flatten it out a bit, or maybe he thinks, with Spencer Brown kind of getting driven back into him a little bit, he thinks, okay, let me evade, let me make something happen. But this angle really shows it as Amari Cooper just comes right into your screen. It's so there. But okay, it's not. I don't want to, nitpick and have everybody yell at us too much, because every time we criticize Allen, we get yelled at, and it's annoying to deal with. This throw is ridiculous. Yeah, and as Aaron says, running 16 miles per hour to your left and then throwing this to the right to open up. Like he opens up his hips, gets parallel with the line of scrimmage, and then throws this to his right. Like just the physics, like the centrifugal force and the momentum you have to generate one way or the other. This is a play that is athletic, it's technical, it's rare. Like this is Allen, like current quarterbacks, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert can make this throw. And that's it. Like if that. And not only does he make it, it's on point. Like he hits Cook in stride. Like this is right on the money. Just an unreal mutant alien unicorn type play from Allen. And also, credit to Cook there. He's taken this thing up the sideline. This angle is great for it. He's taking it up the sideline, and he does a really good job of just playing Scramble Joe regularly, and especially on this one. He's taking it up the sideline. He sees his man, open up and go with him, and just watch him put his foot in the ground, almost right at the sticks, snap this thing off and get inside, again, with some ankle flexion, like we showed on the run earlier.
There's no one else. He is really the only guy, because everyone else is down the field to the opposite side of the field. He's the only guy that can get open. He does a great job of becoming available and being QB friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Just an absolutely tremendous play from James Cook on top of an absolutely tremendous play from Josh Allen. We continue to highlight these pieces and how they come through. And Cook is, I think, from a regularity standpoint, somebody who continues to work well in these off-script plays and just finding space and reading the defense. And this play are making it look easy. Easy Loan Auto Sales play of the game, sponsored of course by our friends at Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help get you behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. Maybe you want to ball out this Christmas and get your significant other a car, or splurge on yourself for a gift and get yourself a car. And if you're doing that, shout out to our friends at Easy Loan Auto Sales and tell them that the Film Room and Cover One sent you, and you can reference one of these making it look easy plays.
Yeah, it's that time of year. You see these plays week in and week out from Josh Allen and a lot of the Bills. And again, we couldn't do this segment, we couldn't do this show without you guys watching and supporting us, but also our sponsors, including Easy Loan Auto Sales. Awesome stuff. Wasn't easy. We put making it look easy in quotes, and that was a pretty play. But again, to Mike's point, that was a Superman play on the back end, but it didn't have to be, right? It didn't have to be. Josh had a play within structure. He chose not to throw it within structure, but he still made a big play, and it was a big one. But it wasn't easy by any means. So moving forward,
we've had so many of those that year. We needed it's so like the make it look easy parentheses, not actually easy play of the game.
Well, obviously now the Lions, we know, they're a man coverage team, and the Bills on this 4th and 2 are going for it here, and they hit Ty Johnson in this empty set, but you can see single high safety, man coverage across the board. See 3 eligibles to the top of the screen. And you get a nice block from Knox. Can I just stop and say Knox has played great when we're talking some of the catches he's made, one we'll see later, but he's starting to do a lot of little things that you hear Matt Collins get credit for. This type of stuff, those rubs, those picks, this block. Again, it's in within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. You see him pick off and get a piece of that linebacker. Bills wanted to attack the linebackers with their running backs and tight ends. And so on 4th and 2, it doesn't matter who's in there. Cook, Davis, Johnson, they trust all of them. They have faith in all of them to call these plays in these high leverage moments. You see a nice little block, a lot of separation for Ty Johnson, very soft hands, and a soft throw from Allen to Johnson for another explosive play.
And what's nice too is we're starting to see these connect. How many rub routes have we showed on Twitter? Have we shown on the show? I'm thinking of the one against Houston. Yeah, and a height. Yep. Where the angle was just off, and we talked about it on the show. We were like, the call isn't awful, but the execution was like the landmark of the rub in conjunction with the route. It doesn't work here. It does. Great
And
job.
was that rubbed by Knox as well in that?
Yes, it
in that play?
was.
It
Yes, it
was.
was.
Yes.
Yes, it was. And we talked about it like it's just not on point. And we were like, we didn't know if Knox made the error or if it was, coached to that landmark, so on and so forth. But either way, they got the the wrinkles ironed out. And Knox is eyeing Turner immediately. Like he's looking inside, he's looking left, and pre-snap, he could just be looking left. But then we see the movement post-snap. We know what happens here. Kind of put 2 and 2 together. Hits his spot legally. Turner has to go underneath. And also Johnson, like you said, that separation. So major kudos to Knox. But Johnson, too, the angle that he takes on this, both of them, the angle of Johnson, the angle of the pick and the rub, how well they work together. And this is a tremendous catch. This is like a wide receiver hands level catch out in space. He's got the hands turned the right way. We're not seeing the Dawson or the Dalton Kincaid like basket type catch where he's reaching up. Real pretty fluid play in space off of a good design and execution between Brady, Knox, and Ty Johnson.
No, we have to take a second here. Mike has just
yes,
sent us a super chat. It says, happy holidays. Keep up the great content. Man, that's very humbling. We appreciate that super chat and that support. We appreciate everyone joining us right now live. I know you guys have been waiting for this film room, including Mike. He already helped the show out with a great segue. Now he's helping us out. We appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Mike. Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you and yours. Man, yous and yours. I'm falling apart. We're only a half hour in. This is terrible for me. Yeah, happy holidays to you and yours. Thank you very much for being here and for the super chat and for the kind words. It means more than you know. So yeah, thank you very much.
All right, we talked about the multiplicity and the concepts, but also the personnel usage, the personnel grouping. Bills are in 21 personnel, so that's 2 running backs, 1 tight end. And I really like this play design, right? It's kind of that naked bootleg, 3-level passing concept with Coleman running that deep clearing route, and you have 2 big crossing routes, one by Knox, one by Hollins. I like how they bring Gilliam across the formation like they're going to pitch it. I like this. Now, the edge defender on the backside of this didn't really buy it, but Josh put on his cape and made him miss. But even more so, once he made that guy miss, and you see the safety cut Hollins and that corner to the bottom of the screen, in this cover 3 look, he should be getting back and helping the inside leverage of Coleman. He doesn't, and it's partly why Josh is able to throw Coleman open deep down the field, deep down the field. He has no help over the top to the middle of the field. Right here, you see him tell him, go deeper. No, you're not far enough. Go deeper. Get to the Buick and turn around, right? And so but I love this basketball background really showing itself once again from Coleman. Good to see him back. Look at the pivot. His chest is to the boundary here, but the ball's up in the air. What's he do? Boom. Easily transitions back to the middle of the field for the big play. Hollins with an assist to get him a few more yards after the catch. Really big play. Outside of structure. Josh put on the cape just a little bit for that one, but the big arm was on full display down the field.
Yeah, this is the one that I think Ben Solak tweeted, like it's the fastest. It was like 2.47 seconds in the air. It's like the fastest 50-plus yard throw in the next-gen stats era. Yeah, he's literally there. It's like, go farther. Yeah. Keep going. I love the comment there on Coleman. Again, I'll work from, the back there. The way he moves once he sees this ball is very almost kind of like you're running a pick and roll and he's setting the pick and now he's moving in the paint towards the basket. Like you pick the man and then you open up inside. It's just fluid. It's natural. The way he turns and moves. You also got Mac Hollins getting vertical and trying to find space. Hollins has been good on these scramble drills. A lot of these guys are. We talked about in the offseason about how important that is. And those scramble drill targets between Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs now being up for grabs. So Hollins gets vertical, tries to find some space. Coleman is already downfield. Allen chucks it to him. It's on the money. Great turn and open up there from Keon. Like you said, continue to see that basketball background translating. And it's not just like proverbials and little details to point out, come draft season and prospect scouting. Like it's actually playing out in real life. And I feel like we see this multiple times a year where Allen is just one-on-one with some poor edge, like in space, and he shakes him or stiff arms him to the ground and then makes a ridiculous play, rolling to his right. Also gets close to the sideline on this one. Very nice from Mr. Josh Allen.
Yeah, the ability of Coleman, we talked about his body positioning when they're in the red zone and those high point balls and stuff like that. I don't think we talked enough about him in the scramble drill. and how that basketball background and that, 5-man weave and staying alive and using your body to find open areas. I don't think we talked about that enough during that draft time, if we're being honest here, but really good stuff from him on that play.
Oh, and
also,
real quick too, it's
yeah,
nice. One thing I want to add, you called out the corner there, Terrion Arnold, for not kind of making his way back in this coverage. We saw the opposite happen with Kyrie Elam. Different concept earlier in the game where, he's the corner into the boundary. Nothing's run to his side, and they're in cover 3. He gets his eyes across the field, picks up the dig coming across the field, and takes it away. So a nice little juxtaposition there between, Terrion Arnold being a rookie, not making that play, versus Kyrie doing something really great.
Right. And so when teams, this is no different than last year when Brady took over, when teams play man coverage, the Bills understand they have an upper hand with their tight ends and the running backs. We saw some of the running back stuff inside and outside of structure, but you see on this play here, you're going to see the 29-yard pass to Kincaid and their smash concept. So typically, this is one of the base concepts. Bottom of the screen, you have that short motion by Kincaid. You have a smash concept, the high-low of the corner. So if they get cover 2 or Tampa 2, or even some man coverages, you could throw it down there. Usually if they're in this single high look pre-snap, in this pre-snap picture, you see a single high look, it's either going to be cover 1 or cover 3 more times than not, especially with how low the DBs are. They're really not spinning to anything else from this. But if it's cover 3, zone coverage after the snap, then Josh would probably start his eyes to the top. So this is kind of what the stuff that, the quarterback that we talk about on Twitter talks about, where it's more of half field reads and where to start your eyes.
Your nemesis.
So, yes. And so this is not a pure progression play. This is pick a side play, right? And Josh picked the right side, but he also executed beautifully. So short motion, you see the corner stay on Kincaid. And I just love Kincaid's smoothness at the top of this route and how he uses his hands. So now underneath, the Lions did something that Matt Patricia did when he was with the Lions. When they were with the Patriots, they would drop out these edges underneath and become underneath players when they wanted to shut down Cole Beasley and guys like that underneath. Well, underneath is shut down on this play. And so Josh goes deep. You have that pivot route by Samuel. You have that deep corner by Kincaid. And just watch the top of this route by Kincaid and how he kind of pushes off with his left hand, his outside hand right there as he breaks to the corner. And then it's just a beautiful ball from Josh. We talked about mechanics and placement. He was on point on this throw, and comfortable in the pocket. Kudos to the offensive line the entire day. But just good stuff from Josh. Great route by Kincaid. This is the type of stuff we need to see when teams go 2-man coverage, but also getting the tight ends down the field, not just the running backs, getting Kincaid vertically down the field like you see here.
Yeah, and he's beaten Terrion Arnold. They're a first round pick for the Lions. Yeah, highly touted corner coming out of Bama. Very nice to see Kincaid starting to get those type of wins and that type of verticality in his game, even with the knee brace and working back. I love the call there from you on the hand usage and the way when he uses it and the timing of it. It's almost like he uses it to slingshot himself forward and through. And you can see like he just loses Terrion Arnold and separates right on the turn. And it's not the sharpest cut. He doesn't stack him and, deceive with eyes and body language and then snaps it off. He just gets positioning, stacks him a little bit, uses that hand, pushes himself forward. This is my favorite part right here. Let me get up and one for you, first down. The little bang, bang. Like, I didn't know Kincaid had this type of swag to
I know,
him.
yeah, dude.
I like it. I like it a lot. This was a huge piece for me. That's really, you broke down everything. That was my big note. It was just like a little bang, bang. Yeah, just letting him know what's good a little bit. Yeah, and again, great throw from Allen, similar to the one we talked about earlier, the rotation, biting the burger. And yeah, we broke down not similar result, but this play against Miami multitude of times with Kincaid and Matt Collins, who's running the corner, who's running the underneath. I do hate the underneath part. Everybody runs these, they have them like running these ugly like whip routes or return routes, and there's a lot of steps. They seem ugly, but I'm an old man. Get off my lawn. It's fine.
Yeah, I like it. Either. That was I didn't see that coming. I didn't know he had that in his arsenal. I didn't know he was that kind of player. So when you start doing things like that, you better be putting up some numbers. So I hope that they start to highlight him a little more and make him a primary target on not just in those high leverage situations, but volume wise, because he does have that type of ability. And you saw it there. And throwing it from one tight end to another, Dawson Knox, we talk about the little things he does here, and this is a play that they've run a bunch for him late in the game. Usually this is the type of play they pull out in a gotta have it moment. So like a third down situation, a third and short, or a fourth and short. And here they pull it on second down. So you see the extra offensive lineman, you see that tackle pull, that dart play. They ran it all game. You see everyone flow to the ball, and then Josh makes it look like he's just going to run it. And Torrance is kind of peeling outside like he's going to lead the play. So this is one of the Lions' better defenders, and that's Brian Branch. And so he's like, okay, I have to contain this play. So with Josh selling run and tucking the ball, he kind of widens it to leverage the play. But then you see Josh pull up and throw it deep on that delayed release by Dawson Knox. He almost overthrows Knox.
Yes.
But Knox shows off some, soft hands, and then again, kind of takes on that hit from Branch. But Anthony, I've talked about this in the past. They've used this play several times, albeit different looks, but this is what we're talking about. Brady used a lot of the same plays and concepts that the Bills have run this year, last year when he took over, but years in the past too. We're talking as far back as 2022, where they would bust it out in those gotta have it moment. Oh, there's Gilmore. Remember when we did the film room, I turned him into toast. Remember that? I put him as a toast icon there. But they've run this play for years now, and it again, Knox or Davis would get it. You see Davis here a couple of times, but Knox on this play against the Lions and a second down situation. So the sequencing was nice. It caught him off guard. It wasn't a gotta have it moment. It was a moment in the game where they needed some first downs, but just really good stuff from Joe Brady, Josh Allen, and Dawson Knox.
Isn't this a couple years ago? I especially remember during the Saints. Isn't this like, didn't they call it Cobra?
Yes. So this is actually a run call. They called this Cobra because they would have the guard pull back then. It was Cobra, and if they wanted to run the pass portion of it off of it, they would add the pass tag. So it technically is a run pass tag. But again, I don't know how they're doing it under Brady. It used to be a run pass tag. Maybe it just has its own play call now.
I was trying to find it on Twitter. I was searching my handle, your handle, the Cover One handle.
Elon deleted them all.
So I literally was typing typing Cover One Cobra, Ant Cobra, Eric Turner Cobra, and it was driving me nuts. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I was doing it at 1 a.m, and I knew you were asleep. So I was like, I'm not going to text him. I'll just wait. Yeah, I love this. This is one of the things I wish they incorporated this more with the tight end. More delays, more leaks. I love it, especially when it works. But the selling and the lies and the deception from Allen, from everything, let's make it look like dart. Let's have Torrance lead it out. Let's have Allen tuck it and make it look like he's trying to get to the sideline. Let's have Knox sell the block. There's so many pieces of lies and manipulation on this play, and they all time well with one another. They're all a part of the story. This was just really well done. And the timing of it just on this second down towards the end of the game, you're trying to put a nail in the coffin into the Lions. You fool Brian Branch, who's having a tremendous year. And if Knox gets a lot of flack, and knowing that we're saying this, he'll probably drop an easy one this week, but just great catch from Knox. That's what he does. Makes the amazing one and then makes us hate him the next by dropping an easy catch right in the chest. But that was a great play from a design standpoint and the execution standpoint. When you do stuff like that, that's all very football in general is about timing and being, hitting your cues and your landmarks. But something like that is very you have to hold this block for, your 2 to 3 beats and then step and go. If you're off or disjointed, the lie doesn't work together. Somebody's going to realize that it's fake and they can make a play out of it. So that was great, especially at the time it happened.
Right. We saw 9 plays of 20 yards or more. Sometimes they're running backs, sometimes at tight ends. I thought the Bills did a great job of getting those explosive plays, but then also slowing the game down and running the ball and getting some chunk plays in the run game. It just was nice to see the multiplicity again of the usage of the concepts. We saw some different formations again with Gilliam in there, kind of in the sniffer role, leading on counter tray, a pistol. We saw some cool things. And so I'm excited about the different layers that we saw in this game and what happens going forward. Especially when you're talking that the Bills really didn't even practice, last week going into that game against Detroit. So not only did they bring their A game, but they put stuff on film that will force teams down the road to start worrying about and practicing and taking that much more practice time when it comes to defending the Bills offense. So aside from that, man, it was I'm with you. I think it was one of Brady's best calls as a coordinator.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those cornerstone games that when he is interviewing for these positions, for head coaching positions, I think this is one of those staple games, given obviously the matchup, with how good these two teams were and just the dueling nature of Ben Johnson versus Joe Brady, because Ben Johnson's the hottest coordinator in the league. Let's be honest here. He's the hottest coordinator in the league. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a job unless he turns it down himself. So he's going to get offered positions. Joe Brady's starting in that direction. He's trending in that direction. I know a lot of Bills fans are already worried he's going to be gone after this year. I don't think that's the case. But again, when we're talking resume and portfolio, Joe Brady will put this game on the desk of the opposing GM that is interviewing him this offseason and off seasons ahead.
Yeah, I just imagine him showing up for the interview and he just like hits play and lets like everything run while he just like sits back and talks and gives his presentation. This was a good one. Again, like the sequencing, the design, the connectivity, everything was for a purpose. It told a story, the versatility, the diversity. And you mentioned one a minute ago. Yeah, like they're running GF counter with Gilliam. Like so many of the offenses I've been studying aside from the Bills this year. Like I love what the Packers are doing out of split back and with Pony and sometimes true 21 and
the running back movement prior to the snap, switching sides.
Yes.
Bills did that again. They did that in this game where they would have the running back start on one side, flip to the other, and it goes all the way back to, again, it reminded me of the game against the Cowboys last year where the run game was very diverse, and obviously they put up a lot of production as well.
Crushed it. Yeah, you hit one that I was going to speak about. Like they'll flip the running backs in Green Bay. The dart play right before the touchdown dart that we showed to Cook, they flip Cook right before the snap, and then when Cook flips, Allen snaps it, and they run dart to the same side that Cook is on. So they run same side dart, and then they come back and hit it the different way for the touchdown. Like all these little things were just so fun to see, like how much they got into, how successful they were at it. And yeah, to your point, like if you're studying them down the stretch, you're like, oh, I didn't know they had this in there. Right. And now it's more stuff to account for. It's more stuff to potentially prepare for. It's a lot really fun.
And Anthony, just to wrap this up again, I want to throw the numbers at you because again, it was all about matchups when we're talking man coverage, getting running backs and tight ends versus man coverage, but also keeping the Lions in their base defense, 3 linebackers on the field. Here's some stats. With the Lions, when the Lions had 3 linebackers on the field, the Bills ran 31 plays for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, explosive plays, some big plays against base personnel. And so that was definitely the game plan going in, and we saw it executed damn near flawlessly.
And going into the season, this is what we talked about, what the Bills had to do and how NFL football was trending in general, leading into these heavier personnel groupings on offense that still have athleticism to try and get defenses into a bind to make them be like, okay, we can't play nickel because they're going to mash us in the run. Let's go base. And now all of a sudden you're caught out in the pass or potentially in the run still, depending on what that third linebacker is. And it's even so, especially now, like usually, if you're out there in base, that's not team's actual quote unquote base anymore. So how much is that third linebacker getting work during practice? How incorporated are they into the defense and the scheme and the structure and the calls? Like, so you're probably taking a guy who's not normally on the field, not normally incorporated, not really seeing a lot of first team reps, putting all that stress. And then on top of it, the body types and the mismatches and the scheme and structure, all of it. Really fun stuff for the Bills, a strong performance in Detroit, and they kept pace with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the number 2 seed in the AFC. And with that, we want to talk about this graphic that we have up here presented by our friends at BetUS. We have the NFL playoff picture queued up right now. And now this isn't bracket style. I think most folks know that, but want to say that. So if the Bills stay the 2 and the Chiefs stay the 1, the Bills will not see the Chiefs until the AFC Championship. So that's kind of how that works. But looking at this right now, it's starting to settle a little bit as we wind down here in the stretch. The Chargers are the 7th seed at 8-6. The Broncos, Ravens, and Texans are each 9-5. The Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals are the 8, 9, and 10 in that order. They're each 6-8. So each of those teams are 2 games behind the Chargers. So things are starting to settle a little bit. If the playoffs ended today, the Bills are looking at a home playoff matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, a lot of potential here. But Erik, as we look at this playoff picture and things are starting to kind of take shape a little bit, how do you feel how the AFC is shaping out and what the Bills' road to the Super Bowl potentially may look like?
Obviously, two of those teams served the Bills a couple of their losses. So I think when it comes to like matchups in the playoffs, obviously I want to go on healthy, so that's important. But I don't want to see the North at all. I don't want to play the Steelers. I think they're humming right now. I think the Ravens as well. Obviously, they're a matchup problem. So I think I want to try to do whatever's possible to avoid those teams. Those matchups are going to be problematic for the Bills, I think. But I do see a nice path either way. I like the Bills' chances, especially if they can put up the points they have the last couple of weeks. We just have to see that defense as we transition here in a couple of minutes to the defensive side of the film. We need to see them tighten up a little bit because really they're the ones that are going to be tested, as is often the case in the playoffs. We know Josh is going to show up and ball out. The Bills' defense needs to step their game up towards the end of the season and in the playoffs to really match up versus some of the teams they may see in the AFC side of this playoff picture.
Yeah, I want to be very, very, very careful with my wording right now because I'm so superstitious and I don't want to jinx anything. But I'm kind of I'm with you. I don't want, out of everybody, not including the Chiefs because that won't happen in the AFC Championship. I do not want Baltimore. I don't want that.
No.
The Steelers, they just Steeler people, like using their team name as a verb. Like, I don't want any part of like some weird game where they win like 11-8 or like 13-9 or some stupid defensive game where Watt does his thing and Cam Hayward's having a crazy good year. Like, I don't want to take the chance with that. But the way it's kind of shaping up, like if they can continue on this path, you guarantee you don't meet the Chiefs into the AFC Championship. I like some things the Broncos defense does. I like some things the Chargers defense does as well. And Herbert is awesome. But all things considered, the path is, no jinx, kind of shaping up nicely potentially for the Buffalo Bills here. And this graphic and this episode, powered by and sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. If you are looking for a new sportsbook this football season, BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's code YouTube150. They give you a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they can also give you your very own personal account manager. Go to BetUS for all your sportsbook needs, and thank you to them for this graphic here.
Absolutely awesome stuff. Their graphics are always fun to talk about when we're talking MVP discussion, standings, rankings. That's all right up my alley. There's no doubt about it. But we appreciate them. We appreciate their business and sponsorship. To be honest, they're top-notch company. Obviously, if they weren't, we wouldn't be doing business with them. With that said,
hold on, wait, we got to stop. We got super chat.
Mr. Pop Culture.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the super chat. And Mr. Well, this has kind of been a topic for some people and some folks. Amari Cooper and kind of his impact on the offense or potentially lack thereof. Mr. Pop Culture says it looks like Josh doesn't have the patience for Amari's routes. 0 targets is crazy. Alan, Erik, what do you think about Amari Cooper's 0 targets and his impact here?
I think there were plays drawn up for Amari, and I think the Lions did a decent job of covering him up and really eliminating him as an option. This is a good thing. I don't think this is a bad thing. You look at it from the perspective of, they made a trade for this guy and he's supposed to be an alpha, primary, and number one. Yeah, that's all true. That's expectation. But I do think that Josh not forcing it to Amari is a good thing. If he's not open, don't throw him the ball. Again, I think that play that we showed, the context that we added was that we thought that the tight end and running back, Gilliam, kind of lost the inside edge or inside line. And that D end or that edge rusher had a line to Josh, and Josh, it flashed right in front of Josh. And honestly, Josh probably saw a gap too. He might have even just been thinking, I'm going to take off and then, reel it back in. But I do think he had Amari on that. There were plays like that for Amari, but they were taken away for whatever reason. But Josh not forcing it to anyone and everyone eating, including the ground game, James Cook over 100 yards. obviously Ty Johnson over 100 yards receiving. You're getting explosive plays from Kincaid and Knox and all these guys are pitching in. Everyone is eating, just not at volume. I understand 0 targets looks bad, but I think that's a good thing for this offense. I don't care. Josh is comfortable. He's being patient. He's letting the scheme and the plays come to him. This is the kind of guy that it seems like he's not going to go complaining that he didn't get 0 targets. They won. They won a big game on the road, and they're going to be a high seed in the playoffs. I'm not too worried about that. I think Josh is playing the way Josh needs to play for this offense to be successful.
And at least for me, like the run game is what stirs the drink for the offense. Yeah. And then they go with personnel and formation and alignment and matchups, and that dictates how the targets get dispersed out. But there is no one that's going to dominate the target share. It can literally flip from week to week. Guys will sometimes be ghosts and have nothing and then be the biggest guy the next week. So it's going to flip a lot. And there, again, like you said, he was open on that dig. There were other plays, even the motion into the smash concept that we showed to Kincaid. Amari cooks Vildor at the top, but Allen's not going to that side because it's cover 1 and he knows what the matchup is at the bottom. So he looks left. Like the matchup isn't necessarily, well, it's Amari, I'm not going to Amari. It's the coverage that's going to dictate. Yeah.
When they went to cover 1, that man coverage, as Chill Will mentions here, he drew some coverage, allowing others to get looks. You saw, even on the Cook touchdown, Amari was to the bottom of the screen. Where was that safety, that single high safety shaded? To Amari's side. So I agree. I don't think it happened often. I think the Bills used some of their formations, whether it's 4 strong, 4-by-1 formations, and they isolated Amari. And what the Lions did is they shaded a safety to that side because that's where they run their isolation routes, their stops, their comebacks, their go routes. And so, yeah, I do think he opened up some things for others. But again, I think it comes down to Josh. Stop worrying about Amari. It's Josh. He's comfortable. He's working through the offense. He's again going through that checklist every single play. Amari's going to get his touches. I'm not worried about that at all.
It's funny. I feel like everybody is going to be like, well, it was a wasted acquisition, or like, how come he's not doing stuff? Hey, listen, like, not everybody can be wide receiver 1 Matt Collins. It's tough to get him off the field. And, but yeah, Cooper's fine. There's going to be games where he pulls in like 6 for 98 and a touchdown. And there's going to be games where he has like 2 for 12 and that's it. Like it's just the nature of this offense and also the nature of him. I like what you're saying. Like, he's not the type of guy to complain. Like, I feel like there's weeks where he doesn't speak at all.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no words coming from him. Yeah. He's just there. It's like, oh, what do you think? And he's just like, yeah, like Silent Bob. Like, I just think that's what he is. It's all just nonverbal cues. Yeah. Erik, that is the offensive side of the ball. A strong performance from the Bills in this game. Now let's flip to the other side of the ball. I put on Twitter yesterday, I liked a lot of the schematic stuff the Bills defense did and several individual performances. I thought they, similar to kind of the offense, tapped into things they don't normally do. And I thought it worked well. This was a good defensive performance up until, I don't know, the last like 2 minutes and 30 seconds roughly of the third quarter and then going into the fourth. And when you stack it on top of the performance against the Rams, it kind of puts some cause for concern there. But, we talked about it last week a bit. We talked about it on Twitter, the aggression. Don't let the run game beat you, which they did not do. They attacked, they blitzed the run, they blitzed Goff. They're running double corner blitzes. Like, the aggression early paid off, helped the offense build a lead, helped the game script, helped take the run away in addition to playing to stop the run. I know the point total didn't look good, and I still have concerns about several aspects of the defense, but I liked a lot of what they did in this game. What are your thoughts here on the defense?
I think that's the blueprint. We've said it many times in this film room. I think they want to get up early on offense so that they can play their, one-dimensional pass rush up the field, attack-oriented defense. I think that is their MO. They don't want to get into that slugfest where the opposing team can be balanced with run and pass, can throw David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs at you each and every play. And that's not the world they want to live in. So the fact that they got up early, it helped the defensive game script. But you can tell, even with that early lead, they, as you said, were still aggressive. They played a lot of single high coverages in that first half so that, again, you can get that extra safety and extra defenders up in the box. There was I think there were 5 or 7 plays where they had 3 linebackers on the field. And we'll show you a few plays of how they attempted to minimize the run game, again, stacking in the box, run stunts, run blitzes. But obviously, as they got up and the game got into the second half, they kind of changed their MO and what they were doing. So in the first half, the Bills ran single high safety look. So cover 1, cover 3, 20 plays. They gave up 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 5.5 yards per play. In the second half, they only ran cover 1, cover 3, 15 plays for 191 yards. So a lot more explosive plays in that second half when they did go those single high coverages, including 3 touchdowns, 12.7 a play. So obviously, Ant, when you're playing those single high coverages, there's that. Obviously, it goes against their MO of, capping plays and minimizing those big plays down the field. But they did it to, again, make the offense of the Lions more one-dimensional, shut down that run game, force Jared Goff into a drop-back pass game. They did that. I'd say they executed that. But Goff, he still went off and got some really good plays in with his arm down the field, even extended a couple plays with his legs that he should have been sacked. So hats off to him. He made some of those tip of the cap plays, but it was obvious that the Bills did come in trying to shut down the run, right? And as the game got out, they got up on the scoreboard and the game progressed. They obviously played some more, 2 high safety plays, as you saw in the second half, 24 plays, but only surrendered 134 yards. So 5.58 yards per play in the second half. And those cover 2, 2-man, cover 4, cover 6 coverages and coverage shell. So I know that was a big discussion after this game. And so I think it only makes sense. If this is a game you're talking about, hey, I'm worried about that in the playoffs. They're playing those 2 shells and giving up a lot of those big plays. No, if you're up several touchdowns, you want to cap and try to, get the clock running, make them throw it underneath and rally and make the tackle. But still, I said, Goff still made some plays. St. Brown and some of their weapons still made plays. So hats off to them.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the conversation too. We talk about it all the time. Like, the guys on the other side of the game get paid to play football as well. And the Lions have a bunch of good dudes on the offensive line at the pass catcher spot. Like, Goff is a good guy. I mean, the fact that he's made those 2 touchdown drives to start out early for the Lions, 3rd and longs, and he's just making plays out of structure and off script, like just what he was able to do. And yeah, you got Amon-Ra, and even, I mean, the big one that kind of set him off, the huge touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown, we talked about it in the beginning. Bernard is a hair away from an interception, and Milano was a hair away behind him of batting the ball down. Yeah. And that even, like, Amon-Ra catches it like he's surprised. He's like, oh, like, and it's right.
Yeah, there was a hesitation. He's like, oh yeah, it made it to me.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I guess I'm gonna run, like, and go. And yeah, I really liked what they did for a majority of the game. And to the point, with the 2 high versus single high stuff. Yeah, early on, I mean, they were putting like 8 and 9 guys in the box. Cole Bishop is living in the box. He's taking on linemen and shutting down gaps and holes and squeezing stuff. And in the second, it just makes sense, right? Like, you're up 35-14. You're not going to keep sending the house. You're not trying to play risk reward. You are going to play a little, for lack of a better word, safer. Keep everything in front of you, rally and tackle. If they move the ball on you, you're going to make them move it by taking 5-minute, 6-minute, 7-minute drives, bleed the clock, pair it with your offense who's still scoring, get out of there with the win. And I don't think the defense all of a sudden fell apart there, and those numbers show it. And obviously you saw it on the tape. You saw a different approach, and they did it because of how the game was going.
I mean, you're talking 12 yards of play when they're being aggressive, playing single high coverages versus those 2 high coverage. 12 yards of play, 12.7 yards of play, or 5.5. Which one do you want?
Exactly.
And
that's the big thing too. Like
that's second half only. That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, that's nuts. And that's a huge piece of trying to kind of like take that sting out of the Lions offense. And that's the single high nature, especially the way they played in this game. It was very risky. All the run stunts, like we're going to lead off with the run stunts, the numbers, the blitzes. If you get caught out, that's a huge chunk play going the other way. So you're playing the numbers, you're playing the odds. That's just smart. I know that's not an answer a lot of people will like, but I mean, and they took away the run. The Lions run game is a monster. It is a buzzsaw, and the Bills shut it down completely right off rip. Like, that's a huge win in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, 3 linebackers on the field early in the game here. You'll see a little run stunt or gap exchange. Daquan Jones slants across the face of the center, and that obviously keeps Milano free as he's scraping over the top here. A lot of guys in the box, a lot of guys in and around the box here, Anthony. And you see him, Milano, Ed Oliver scrape down the line of scrimmage to bottle up the running back early in this game.
Yeah, I thought this was really good tone setter early on to kind of let you know, hey, like this is what it's going to kind of be from a day perspective against arguably the best running team in the league, or at least in the NFC. The Bills had the fifth lowest, lower being better, EPA per rush allowed in this game in week 15. They also allowed a 30.8 rushing success rate, which was the sixth lowest on the week. And it started off right off rip. You talked about it. Look at all the bodies in the box. Dorian Williams being on the field. Cole Bishop communicating. This play, as soon as that snap happens, he's crashing. I love how Cole meets Brock Wright, their tight end, who's lined up at fullback, meets him in the hole. You got bodies there, the little stunt and game between Daquan and Milano. Milano meets in the hole. Ed makes a play. Like, this was a good tone setter right from the jump. We're attacking with numbers and with scheme. We're coming. We're not going to let you move the ball this way on us.
Yeah, and you see that in this play and this run stop by Bishop coming from depth. Bills are sending a run stunt here, so they're going to have the D tackle and DN dive inside, spike inside. Terran's coming off the edge, but watch Bishop, as soon as the ball snapped, come from depth to make that tackle. Great job of leveraging this too. So again, Terran's coming off the edge, but look, as the Lions run that split zone, they bring that tight end across the formation. Watch Bishop and keeping his head on a swivel as that receiver comes down to put the crack on him right there. You see him leverage that blocker, but also get up into the hole and make the tackle there with Greg Rousseau. Very good work at the point of attack by Bishop at triggering downhill, really firing his gun from depth to make this tackle.
We've seen him do this before. He did this multiple times in the game against Houston, like coming from depth, feeling that push crack coming his way. And this is against Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of the best blocking receivers in the league. He's tremendous as a route runner and as a pass catcher, and, you know, in his stems, releases with the ball after the catch. He's a good blocker. He can dig out safeties and crack on dudes all day. And what I love about this from Bishop, he comes from depth. His eyes don't leave Montgomery. Like, he is reading the offensive line, and he's reading Montgomery. He's reading that running back's track. His eyes never leave Montgomery, but he still feels Amon-Ra coming for him. And he sticks his hands out. He leverages the gap, like you said. This is such a great play from Cole Bishop. I believe this was the second play of the game right after that first one we showed. Like, again, good tone setter and a good job by Cole. You got a new safety tandem in this game against one of the best offenses in the league, and he comes out showing that he's ready and up for the matchup.
And think, if he's hesitant at all, Montgomery is north and south here, and he's getting up on Cam Lewis quite quickly with this gap. It was blocked up very well, again, versus a run blitz. It's a big stop by Cole Bishop coming from depth, coming from that safety position, rotating down post snap, and then bringing down the running back.
And that's an example too, right? Like, obviously this worked out for the Bills, but you talked about it. Like, this is actually blocked up well. If Cole Bishop hesitates, this is where the risk reward happens. You get rewarded because Cole Bishop makes a good play. But if he's slightly off here, Montgomery is through into the second level. And then all of a sudden he's kind of one-on-one with Cam Lewis. That's why you kind of maybe move away from that in the second half when you have this big lead, because you don't need to play that risk reward type of game.
Right. And so obviously the defensive player of the game was probably Ed Oliver. 9 or 10 pressures. You're going to see the sack here, 3rd and 13. There were several plays where the rush and coverage were on the same page with against, again, a very good offense in the Lions. And the Lions right here trying to high-low that second level. So they're trying to high-low Bernard. They did this several times in this game. So they put Brown right at the logo. They threw a dig route in behind him. But because they were spaced out well, you know, they spaced those routes really well, that high-low. You see Goff not able to pull the trigger, and then Ed Oliver, you'll see it from the end zone angle, does a great job of disengaging and getting a piece of the quarterback here from the pocket. Big game from Ed, you know, using speed to power a bunch. I mean, any offensive lineman he went against, and usually it was Glasgow, the left guard here, he just got up under the pads, transitioned from speed to power, and just drove back the pocket into Goff's face.
He had 10 pressures on the week, which was tied for first along with Greg Rousseau. 7 of those 10 pressures came against Mr. Glasgow there at left guard. Ed Oliver amongst qualifying defensive linemen in week 15, and there were a lot. He was second in pressure rate at 23.8. And also, fun fact, Greg Rousseau was third in pressure rate at 22.7. And as James says, can Ed Oliver play like he did Sunday for the playoffs? Ragnow was his Ragnow. Yeah, he went through Ragnow on a play when
We'll
they
show that. Yep.
lined him up over the center. Yeah, we're going to show that. He had a great game. I like the connection here with the coverage. Really good, reading of the route distribution from the Bills defense here in Tampa too. Like that is what helps Goff hold on to this ball. Things are taken away. Yep, Milano is taken out. Amon-Ra. You've got Patrick going across, but Bernard is that Tampa player.
Yeah.
He's already to good depth, which is kind of taking it away. And then he turns and opens with it. Bishop is open into the top and running with JMO.
Mm-hmm.
This is just good, sound coverage. And again, another example to highlight a team that's, playing two new starters at the safety position for the first time together. Look where the corners are. You have Elam highlighted up there. Everybody is that first level. There. Yes, they are at the sticks. So if something's completed underneath, cool. Have that completion to the no cover zone down in the flats. We'll rally, we'll tackle. Good sound coverage on the back end. But yeah, Ed with the highlight up front, who in this game, his hand usage was tremendous. It was violent. There was pop. There was just a lot of energy in his hands, and there was technicality on top of it. Just a really tremendous display of hand usage. And to James's question, I hope he can play like he did Sunday in the playoffs, because he's starting to show the guy who was dominant at multiple times throughout the regular season last year.
Right. And I think the Bills did a really good job at defending. We talked about trips looks, against the Rams. I thought they did a really good job against the trips looks and 3-by-1 looks of the Lions, because on the backside of the routes and formations that the Lions can do, here you got JMO, you have a wide receiver, but you also have Gibbs. So think about, you got trips down here with St. Brown and Laporta and all those guys, they roll through there. But on the backside of these formations are really where you can get in trouble, because you're getting matchups, right? You're getting matchups against linebackers and corners. And so I thought what the Bills did and using combo coverages was really good. Here's the pass breakup, a big hit from Taron Johnson, but look at the coverage. To the backside of the formation, the Bills lock it up. They play man coverage. They put Elam on JMO and they lock Milano on Gibbs, the running back. And so they blocked that up on the backside, played man on the backside, but then they're also just zoning off to the trip side of the field. And so as soon as Goff looks to that overloaded zone and finds Brown, Taron's just waiting, because, okay, you can see Benford's dropping to the bottom of the screen. He's dropping the depth with that receiver down there. Seam route by this guy is covered up by the safety. So now you're watching one of the better receivers, the slot receivers in the league, in Brown. And so they're just waiting on him. And what if the Bills didn't play this coverage with the man coverage on the backside? These guys at the second level are in trouble, because they're running this deep crosser with JMO. So think about it. Elam would not be there. He would not be trailing him. And so this will be a high-low right here, a very good triangle, because you have this clearing route, you have a deep over, and then you have a lower route to kind of draw these guys in. Now you have pick of the litter in that intermediate area. But because the Bills locked it on the backside and played man, it forced the offense to throw it underneath to Brown here. And so now you see Taron and Bernard break on it underneath, and he's able to separate the wide receiver from the ball for the big play.
And this is something the Lions do with regularity. They love to attack on end breakers, digs, overs. They'll get the wide receivers. They'll get the tight ends. They'll do it off play action. They will just annihilate your second level. And you highlighted exactly how it's drawn up. If they play zone, you're getting your safety pulled by that route right there that's highlighted. And then JMO's coming in behind it. The second level is head by, with speed, like he's getting into that void. This is drawn up well from a play design standpoint from Ben Johnson, but it's nullified by the play that Kyrie Elam makes and the coverage structure there. And it's funny too, something similar to that happened earlier, but Kyrie was off. And I couldn't figure out if that backside was, if it was man on demand or man only deep, or if it was man everywhere he goes. And then this play happened later, and Kyrie was on him from the jump and press and attacked. And I was like, okay, it's just straight up man everywhere he goes. I like that combo. They've done it against Kansas City. I like how they lock it. And then from this angle, we get a nice tackle stunt, as you have highlighted there, which they did multiple times.
Yes. They stunted a lot.
Yes. I was thinking the inside stunts in general between both tackles, but then also when they'd line up, in odd fronts and cover up the center, the stunts and game between that, zero tech and the linebacker behind him, whether it was Milano or Bernard, was really nice. So you get the tackle stunt here. And then Taron Johnson just going through Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And the speed, the first step by Oliver. Watch him on the left side of the screen.
Juice.
Look at him get in the inside edge right there. He won that. And so Goff is
the dip and the bend to get through. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is what they've been waiting for, right? We've been waiting for that. Maybe he's getting healthier, and maybe that's why you saw that juice there. But you see him just beat those offensive linemen and split them. And again, that speeds up Goff. He has to throw it. He can't throw it down the field. He can't let the play develop. And then Taron Johnson, within the timing and structure of this play, just breaks on him and damn near breaks the wide receiver at the catch point.
Such a perfect form tackle. That is how you coach it. That is how you teach it. It was clean. It was technical. It was forceful and sound. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, not to continue to praise him too much, is one of those dudes, like pound for pound, is one of the toughest dudes in the NFL. Like if you watch the wide receiver thing on Netflix, he hurt his ankle or foot early on last year and just kept playing with it no matter what. He stays down after this hit. Like Taron got him and put him in the dirt, and he sat there for a minute, kind of collecting himself. But again, it's the coverage, it's the game up front, it's Ed, it's Taron, it's Elam, it's the call, the design, a lot of things working in conjunction, which is what you need against a very good offense like the Lions.
I like this point by Dano. Eddie O has better numbers with stunting. Yes, because you can use and maximize that speed, the power, that agility. I agree. I think, they haven't done a lot of stunning this year compared to other years is what I remember reading or hearing about. But we saw it a bunch in this game, and especially from Eddie O. And you saw how disruptive he can be when they allow him to do that. And again, you're not going to get a lot of that when you play quarterbacks that are mobile. And so when you have a guy like Goff that is more of a statuesque quarterback, wants to stay in the pocket, you can run some more of those games and stunts. And I agree. I think that plays to Ed's strengths. And speaking of Ed, here's another play and strategy I think the Bills used a bunch. We stacked the line of scrimmage a little more from a defensive standpoint, and that allowed, the offensive line, it didn't allow them to stay on those combination blocks because, again, now with so many guys near the line of scrimmage, they can't hang tight on those combination blocks. They have to immediately scoop to the next level to get that defender. And so watch Ed on this play. He gets a one-on-one versus the guard. See him initially get his helmet outside here as the Lions run a zone run, peek inside right there. Okay, is Montgomery committing inside or outside here? As soon as Montgomery commits outside, boom, he disengages. Oh, look at the hand usage. How he pushes down the outside hand right there, punches that elbow down, and then disengages to make the tackle on the running back. Eddie O, he was back in this game, and it's good to see it against this quality of an opponent.
Yeah, their line is so good. They got Decker back this week. They've been putting Dan Skipper at left tackle, who is normally their sixth offensive lineman and scored a touchdown in this game. Shout out to him for the big man touchdown. This is really nice. And I don't have too much to add. I just, Ed getting underneath, keeping himself clean, reading Montgomery, sheds, makes the play. But you hit the big one for me too, like putting these bodies on the line. The Bills have had issues against double teams and getting displaced horizontally and vertically. So when you do this, and the way they're attacking here and how they're lined up, the bodies, the numbers, all that stuff, you can limit some of those doubles and combo blocks, and you create more one-on-ones, and that's obviously more advantageous for a defensive lineman to play one-on-one versus two-on-one, especially when you are smaller, when you are more undersized like Ed Oliver. And he just ate this entire game against, the run, against the pass, more often than not against Glasgow, but also Frank Ragnow a bit. This is where that height, too, kind of comes into play. Yes. He's able to get underneath. He's got the juice. He almost lifts Glasgow off his feet. He's just under him. The rep is over. He's got control. He's knocked him back a bit. But then the way to finish it off and kind of Chris Seth, our producer behind the scenes, who was amazing, when he showed that play on Twitter, he said that Ed got on him and rodeoed him down to the ground. And I thought that was very apropos.
Wrapped him up. And so when you're stacking the box, you're getting those one-on-ones because the lineman can't create that displacement, hang on those combination and double teams. They were able to create some negative plays and get into third and longs. And then you saw the Bills kind of get into their bag. We're talking third down and third and long situations. Here is a zone blitz. So they're sending 5, playing zone behind it, but they're aligning in an odd front, but they're using their linebacker Bernard as almost that that other defensive tackle when they want to play like the cub front or tight front. And
Mm-hmm.
so you see them and in post snap, they drop out into cover 3. So it's a 5-man pressure. Terran's coming off the edge. 5 guys are rushing the quarterback here, and the Bills are spinning to cover 3. And so Goff wants to throw it hot out wide, I think, to Laporta here. But he saw Cam Lewis spinning down to the flats. Again, he's a flats defender, 3 deep, 3 under. So he holds it, moves on his progressions. And again, the rush, the coverage were in sync. And you saw Eddie O blow someone up over the center. You saw him blow up Ragnow there. But you also saw Greg Rousseau spike inside. And when you have those 2 guys attacking up the field, pinning their ears back, and allowing to play in these 3rd and long situations and rush a passer, you're going to have some good things. And this was one of those plays that Babbage, designed really well. You saw the players execute, and they're able to bring down Goff on this 3rd down play.
Yeah, they ran this front similarly earlier in the game, except that you had traditional defensive linemen at your 4-eye, your 0, and your other 4-eye. This time, like you said, it's Bernard. I love these looks. When you cover up the center here, they are creating man-on-man protection across the line. And you can see it as everybody drops, right? Decker at left tackle drops to take Rousseau. Glasgow initially looks for Bernard. Bernard drops.
He would have him,
so
right?
now he's scanning. Exactly. We've got a hat on a hat everywhere. Zeitler is looking at Smoot, who's dropping. Sewell is looking at Vaughn. And then Montgomery is picking up Milano. We saw this throughout this game, create these one-on-one situations, knowing that if we align in this way, we're going to create that man-on-man look. And then they attack it. They drop out, like you said. And I love the stunt and the slant inside from Groot.
Yeah.
And because of that initial alignment, Glasgow is initially looking for Bernard, but then he's scanning. And while he's scanning, Groot is spiking. And it's just that slight mistiming, slight miscommunication. Look at Glasgow number 60. He's leaning to the right because he's trying to scan. He's caught out. I feel this is so bad. We just keep highlighting Graham Glasgow like over and over again, just getting worked. And Groot's able to spike inside. And then Ed.
The dam was open at that point, right? The dam's open. Eddie O's dropping the center. Glasgow's trying to punch out with his drag hand to help Oliver. There's no way he can help that. He's already won. And then he has to deal with Groot, his size and strength, spiking inside. It was a tough day for him. And when Goff didn't pull the trigger, you saw him move on in his progression. And so now you have Bernard top of the screen. He's leveraging that route that comes in behind him. Even Dwayne Smoot, who dropped out. He was at the line of scrimmage initially. He dropped out. You see him disrupt that crossing route where Goff is looking to throw it. That throws the timing of the playoff. And that is, again, all of those layers, the layers of coverage, of disguise, of rush, and all those little details led to the sack of Goff. A really, really big play on this 3rd down.
Ragnow got blown up so bad that I really thought, like, when we watched the all 22, it would be like, oh, he tripped over like someone's foot or like they just got tangled somehow. And it's not. Ed just literally blows him up. Like the get off that look at the hand placement right in on the chest, right in above the numbers. Like the leverage is there, the pop and the power. That's what I was talking about a little earlier with the hands. Like there was just pop and shock and violence in those hands. And this is a good angle too to kind of highlight, Erik, you talking about like Goff not pulling the trigger. You can see him look out there and he wants to look like he's going to Laporta, but he sees that spinning safety. Okay, so let me go back across the middle, and there's nothing on the Bernard's man. There's nothing on JMO underneath because Smoot is there, and by the time he's trying to figure everything out, Groot is in on him because of the front and the slant. Ed is in on him because he just blew up Ragnow. Yeah. Man, we've seen a lot from them this year. A good marriage of the coverage and pass rush, which is nice because when it doesn't work for them, they usually get got in a big way.
Right. So fast forward to the 3rd quarter, 5:31 on the clock. Bills are up 28-14. You see that combo coverage again. This is the play that Berford created to force fumble. So again, backside of the 3x1, the Bills manned up. Elam, Milano, you have the wide receiver and the running back. On the passing strength, you're going to overload that zone. You see 4 over 3 to that trips. Taron Johnson, Bernard, Berford, Cam Lewis, 4 over 3. And so as Cam Lewis gets, run off on this play, Berford understands here comes that dagger concept, that dig by the wide receiver in behind Bernard. And he understands that much like earlier, you saw these guys, their eyes are on that underneath route. It's a high-low. And so what does Berford do? He trusts his eyes, plays with that vision. He drives on that dagger route, And Bernard does a great job of spacing it, making this throw by Goff that much more difficult, right, Ant? He has to throw it up and over Bernard. He nearly gets a piece of it, but Benford is there right at the catch point, and as he's bringing the wide receiver down, he punches it out with his right hand, and the Bills recover it. This is a huge play. Again, scheme working here, but also now a player playing above the scheme and making a play in a big moment.
Yeah, Bernard had, between this one and then the one to St. Brown earlier, Bernard had 2 plays where he was just really a great position. It was just like, man, if you had, I don't want to say this, but
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
If you just had someone like Tremaine Edmonds' size and length, man, you could have made this play. So
I wish I was a little bit taller.
Oh, nice. I wish I was a baller. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, but he's in there with good position. And Benford is the big one for me here. Like, he goes for the punch initially on the catch. Like, so he's already trying to punch it out.
Yeah.
But St. Brown makes the catch. And then he reloads and goes for the punch again, and he gets it. Like, we've talked about it. We talked about him in the offseason as being one of the under the radar guys. He doesn't have the interception numbers, but his ball skills, especially from like a punch out standpoint, either in PBUs or with fumbles, is so on point. And both of these end zone angles really show it. Like, yeah, he's trying to punch the pocket, like teach tape right on the catch, doesn't get it. And think of that, like, you go for the punch, you don't get it. So you make the tackle, and as you make the tackle, you have the wherewithal to reload and go for the punch again. And yeah, this mattered a lot. They won by a single score. This took a possession away from the Lions, gave another touchdown to the Bills on the next one. Like, this was a huge, again, momentum continuing play for the Bills. And it's just so incredibly heady and technically sound by Christian Benford. Like, also a good job of Kyer Elam just absolutely mugging the hell out of Jameson Williams. They let Kyer.
They let him.
They let him play, and he took full advantage of it. He had this one. He had one later in the game against Allen Robinson. If refs are going to let Kyer Elam play with this level of physicality, he might be corner 1.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Like 2 weeks. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's his game. That's his game. And so when you're talking eliminating that backside, again, 2 very explosive players in Jameson Williams and Gibbs. If you're allowing him to do that, he's going to do it. And again, they're off corner, the zone side of that coverage in Benford was able to make a play, and they did it a bunch, man. And running those cover 6, because that's like cover 6 variation there, you know, kind of that box look, but with the backside of that coverage locked. That was something they ran a bunch in this game as well, because again, the Bills have struggled versus trips looks. And a lot of times they were against the Rams, they ran like cover 3 over 30% of the time, 37 or 8% of the time.
Yeah.
So they needed to do something different. And I thought some of the adjustments they did versus those 3-by-1 looks, especially when you're talking the explosiveness and talent that are usually on the backside of those formations of the Lions, being able to match up in man coverage, coincidentally enough, playing to Elam's strengths, one, but also have Milano back. You saw when Milano went out, you saw how that changed what they were doing. They were just running more of just base zone coverages. They weren't able to run some of those match coverages and hybrid coverages that you saw there in some of these big plays, because again, Spector was in there. You don't want him one-on-one versus Gibbs. And so as those injuries happened, you saw them have to tweak things a little bit on top of, again, the game script, which is really the biggest story when we're talking the defense.
Yeah, but that's a great point too. Like, so the game script, but then also, Milano goes out and it's Spector. And then Bishop is out and it's Kareem Jackson. And no disrespect to either guy, but that's just an even more significant drop off at safety than what you already had potentially. And then, Milano going to Spector, like, that's going to change. And the game script mattered a lot. Yes. So there's a lot of explanation from the film standpoint and schematic game script standpoint. The game script matters a lot. It's why it's underneath my handle here on this show. Like, for game script enthusiasts, it matters a lot to this team and in football in general. But
context matters.
Crazy. Yeah, right. Context matters. It just, it was so many nice things we saw on the defensive side of the ball. And hey, you mentioned the point that I just really wanted to drill home too. Yeah, like, you've got this corner who is athletic and big and physical and likes to play man and likes to play press. So cool. If he's on the single receiver side, let him just play man and then combo it. Like, just do that. It just Makes sense.
It makes
Don't
too
let
much
them worry
sense.
about, just don't let them worry about like, okay, my spacing, let me get my drop. No, bro, their lineup in front of you, jam the hell out of them and be a good athlete. Like, lean into your players' strengths. And again, was helped because the refs were like, no, bro, if you want to get physical, get physical. And it worked. And even within that, Kyer had a couple really good reps in zone against some underneath stuff.
Yeah.
The one on cover 3 we talked about earlier, it was, man, I do think it was a better performance defensively than is going to get credit amongst the fan base and probably nationally as well, because they're going to see the point total and what the Lions were.
Right.
I'm very interested to see what they do this week against a Patriots offense that they should be able to do well against, but they also should have did well against last year's Patriot offense in New England, and Mac Jones and those boys hung 29 on them and the Bills lost. So we'll see. But yeah, I really do think this game, I know what the point total was defensively, but offense and defense, a lot of fun schematic stuff that they threw at the Lions, and it led to honestly a dominant performance for 3/4 of this game.
Yeah, it was fun. Again, the defense gave up points, but there were some cool wrinkles that we saw, and we wanted to see production from some of their stars. And so getting Oliver, back up on his horse again, it was nice to see him have a good day against, again, the competition in a big game in that in that moment. So there's a few things that we could take from that side of the ball, and getting Ed Oliver going was money. Charles says Coach Adai shouted out Elam after the game. Yeah, I saw him after the game, as the game was ending. They flashed the sideline, and I saw Adai, talking in Elam's ear. So there is definitely some kind of connection there, and I know Elam, with some of his social media stuff and the pictures he puts in his profile and all that, like, I know he believes he should, with his talent, should be playing. All players do. I get that.
Yeah.
And maybe his skill set isn't totally fit for what the Bills have done on defense schematically over the years. But again, in this game, it was almost perfect when we're talking those 3-by-1 sets, as we showed in the film.
Yeah, and if he can continue to put together good opportunities when he gets the chance in games or in practice, it'd be really nice if, Rasul Douglas, who is a UFA after this year, he has a cap hit, but it's a void year. It'd be really nice if the Bills already had, their another starting corner on the roster already, who was a first-round pick, who has a fifth-year option that could be
And whose
picked up.
confidence is up, right? You want to
Yes.
have that confidence up. It's huge with him. His
Yeah.
confidence is it's big when it comes to his play.
Yeah, and especially when you're living in a world like corner in general, you need your confidence, but
You
especially if
better.
you get put in these man situations, like corner is hard, man. Like, especially in today's NFL, you can't touch anyone. You can't look at them
Yeah.
the wrong way. You can't say anything. You got to tackle. You got to play the pass. You got to play man and zone, a multitude of coverages and assignments against a multitude of body types. It's not just as simple as it used to be when it was already hard to be a corner. Yeah, so some fun things from Kyer, some fun things from Cole Bishop in this game. Several standouts on the defensive side of the ball, obviously headlined by Ed Oliver, like we showed, Greg Rousseau, like we talked about. But yeah, good performance on both sides of the ball, which they needed to have to beat one of the best teams, if not the best team in football, in the Detroit Lions. They come back home this week to play the Patriots. We will be breaking that episode down next week in the film room, but we are going to start to put a bow on this one. Erik, anything for the people? Any final thoughts or anything before we say goodbye?
No, I'd like to obviously keep an eye on Josh. I know that he was tackled late in the game and came up kind of grimacing a little bit, but he's not on the injury report as of today. But obviously his health is incredibly important, and just health overall. I think, yes, it's a division game, and the Bills are still fighting for their their seeding and whatever. I just want to come out of this game healthy. I just want to come out of this game healthy, and including the quarterback. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on as far as the game this week against the Patriots.
Fair point. I say this all the time, and I forget who originally said it. Usually, the best teams come playoff time are coincidentally the healthiest teams come playoff time, and especially with these, no disrespect, winnable games down the stretch here for the Bills, it would be nice to just win and stay healthy. I'd almost rather take health over like the win if I really had to pick one. Like, this team is going to the playoffs. There are certain matchups, we both spoke about that we'd like to avoid. But when they're on, this is an extremely tough team to beat. I'd take health over the wins at this point, especially when it comes to Allen. But even a lot of these guys, like, they've shown that they're kind of putting some things together. But at some point, if you continue to have to use the depth guys, you're going to get burned at some point, especially when you get into the playoffs. So it'll be nice if they didn't have to go down that road. But whatever happens against the Patriots or the Jets or the Patriots again, or in the playoffs, we will have you covered here in the film room every single Wednesday with what you need to know on tape, advanced metrics, all that stuff. If you folks want to consume some extra stuff on Twitter or on the socials, you can find Erik on Twitter at Erik J. Turner, also running the Cover One handle, which is at Cover One. That's at Cover and the number one. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. I also copy and paste everything I do on Twitter right to Blue Sky. That's just pro ant. No underscores. They don't let me over there. So yeah, more stuff on the socials for you folks. If you enjoyed this content, please, 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 thank you. Drop a like on this video here on YouTube if you would be so kind. Turn on notifications for the Film Room playlist here on YouTube and subscribe to the Cover One channel while you are at it. We have you covered with various levels of Bills content, football content, pretty much every single day of the week when we are here in season, and a variety of stuff in the off season as well, both live and recorded stuff. So smash that subscription. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room and to the Cover One channel as a whole. Thank you very much for everybody who tuned in live for this episode, who watched later, listened later, whatever have you. Thank you very much to Mike and Mr. Pop Culture for your super chats and for your presence here. Yeah, very, very appreciated and very awesome. We're greatly thankful for that. Yeah, tell your family and friends and loved ones about this channel and brand and show and all that stuff. And we hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and being safe. Take care of one another. Be kind to one another. We will see you next week for another episode of the Film Room. Until then, I'm Anthony Prohaska. That's Erik Turner. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.